All right, so welcome everyone. Holding by the book of Leviticus, chapter 16. Again, want to welcome everyone. Holding by the book of Leviticus, chapter 16. Just got a good amount of rain here, so that's always good. Except I'm having some electrical issues in my house here. Hopefully we should be good. Any case, we're holding by book of Leviticus, chapter 16, verse 13. So we're speaking about before the service of Yom Kippur, the two goats, one to Hashem, one to Azazel. We spoke about as well, and what the purpose of the two goats were, etc. We're going to continue. Verse 13 again, Leviticus chapter 16, verse 13. Torah says, "V'nasa nesaketoires ala eish lifnei Hashem kisa anon aketoires." So here the Torah tells me that you're going to place the incense upon the fire before God. We'll have to see what that means. So that the cloud of the incense is going to blanket the ark cover, right? The cover of the ark. That is the top of the tablets. Testimony, so that you shall not die, right? So that he shall not die. Meaning, if the Kohen Gadol who performs this gets it wrong and he messes it up, he dies. Death penalty, right? Pretty severe. So the first question is, what does it mean? It's going to place it upon the fire. So Rashi here says, what does it mean upon the fire? It means in the fire pan. Now, what is the fire pan exactly? Fire pan had hot coals. Didn't have necessarily flames, but it was very hot. And nonetheless, even though we're not talking about necessarily flames that are coming out, we can still say that the coals are very hot. It refers to fire. Right? Simple explanation refers to fire. So here, one of the commentaries on Rashi explains, the Maral explains, it's talking about the coals of the fire pan, not the flames. Right? So explains the Maral, so explains Rashi over here. Now, comes along, Moiver Rebbe, Rav Agon Ramosha Stramach Shlita, should be well. Brings down his commentary on Chumash called Tam V'das, and he explains like this. He explains that rabbis tell us that the ketoris, the incense, not placed on the outside. They didn't fix it on the outside and bring it within. Right? What was supposed to be done? What is supposed to be done over here? What's supposed to be done is it's supposed to go within. Right? In other words, it's supposed to go in within the Holy of Holies. Not supposed to be on the outside. Right? The Imar Rebbe says it's only supposed to be inside. And you don't take it out. Not supposed to be outside. You put it out, you take it outside, or you do it outside, let's say, death penalty. All right, it's a very severe prohibition. The Rebbe here says, okay, let's explain what's going on. We'll give a hint. Doesn't mean it's simple explanation, right? But a hint. What's the hint over here? He says there's a hint over here. Again, anytime anyone's going to say it's a hint, right? It means not simple explanation, right? So more, let's say, a homiletic interpretation, right? So he says, what's the hint? The hint is there are some people, he says, there are some people that are not happy with only the wisdom of the Torah, right? And the words of the rabbis. When it comes to, let's say, spiritual things, or what we'll say, maybe mental things. within a person, different forces within a person, so to speak. But what do they do? What do they want to do? And this opens up a whole Pandora's box. And that is that they search and try and incorporate Torah with wisdom of the nation. Like he says Torah's philosophia, right? What does it sound like? Philosophy, right? Torah philosophy with psychology. That where does it come from? Where do we learn, quote unquote, modern psychology from? Right? Learn from the nations. Even though all of this is really steeped within the Torah, but okay, right? Where do they learn it from? He says they learn it from the nations. And they want to add on. In other words, they want to make a hybrid between Torah and psychology. They want to add on. So he says, what's the hint? So what's going on over here? We're gonna flush this out in a second. But what's going on? What does that have to do with our verse? Because what does the Torah over here say? The Torah over here says, do not enter something from the outside within. Don't bring something outside inside. He says, all the more so, the wisdom of the nations, has nothing to do with service of God at all. Right? Making a very strong statement here. Right? Which we're going to have to clarify. Why? Because he's saying that wisdom you keep out of Torah. You keep way out of Torah. Why? So he says, because the vast majority of it has no connection to Torah at all. Goes against Torah. And he said, so we have to fix up the ketoris, the incense, has to only be within, meaning within the Holy of Holies, not outside. I.e., we're only learning Torah. We're not interested in the philosophy of the non-Jews. Now, that opens up a whole Pandora's box. Most people know we don't shy away. We don't shy away from controversial things. So you see, aren't there ultra-Orthodox psychologists? There are. Therapists? There are. So where are they getting their training from? Where are they getting it from? Universities. That's where they're getting it from. That's where they're learning from. So they're going to say, but all that knowledge, you're going to say all that knowledge is bad? Right? What's Rebbe saying? He's saying it doesn't fit in with Torah. So a lot of it doesn't fit in with Torah. Maybe some of it does, okay. But he says if it doesn't, and it doesn't fit within those parameters, then you're causing damage. He's going to say, but if a person goes to a psychologist, a therapist, so where are they getting the knowledge from? Right? So, someone who needs that type of help, you got to go to somebody that is sympathetic to our beliefs. Because someone could go, let's say, to a non-religious psychologist or a non-Jewish even, doesn't matter, Jewish, non-Jewish, right? Doesn't matter. And you say, person may have certain issues, whatever they are, and they're going to say, of course, you got all these laws. You got all these restrictions, all these things you can't do. Or you have to be so picky in details, right? Every little thing, how you wash your hands, what you do when you wake up in the morning, this, that, everything is ordered. So of course you're nuts. I shouldn't say that figuratively, right? Of course there's something wrong with you. Look at all these laws. And they're going to try and undo. They're going to try and uproot and say, yeah, that's the cause, right? So a person got to be careful. Got to be careful who they're going to go to, right? Who they're going to listen to over here. Here they're trying to get help. Very good, right? They understand they need help. So, that's good. But going to someone who's not sympathetic to our cause, disastrous. It could be absolutely disastrous. Because They are not going to say, oh, religious belief is so good that, that has nothing to do with anything and blah, blah, blah. They're not going to be sympathetic. Vast majority. Now, the question is, okay, so you have to go to somebody who obviously knows what they're doing, A, and B, is sympathetic to our cause, right? That it's going to hold the same values we do. If they don't hold the same values we do, there's going to be a problem, right? So my Rebbe here is saying the two don't mix. The two don't mix. And even if someone says, okay, what we'll do, we'll understand these different techniques, and let's say, God forbid, it's heresy. Let's say it's heresy. So can a person say, all right, I'll take the good, I'll throw away the bad, right? I'll take the good ideas, I'll implement them, that fit with Torah, the bad I'll throw out. That's the same thing Rebbe Meir said about his Rebbe Acher, Elisha ben Abuya. Elisha ben Abuya, known as Acher, the other one, was on the Sanhedrin and became a heretic. Whole question, how can someone, at that level, know 70 languages, knows all Torah, and he becomes a heretic? Whole discussion, maybe we'll get into it. But what happened? He became a heretic. So Rebbe Meir learned from him. So they asked Rebbe Meir, how can it be? How can it be you can learn from somebody like that? The person outright is a heretic. You can't learn from him. Right? Totally can't learn from them. So if you can't learn from them, what are you doing? How is it possible? How is it possible for such a thing? What did Rebbe Meir answer? Rebbe Meir answered, he says, I push away the outside, I take what's on the inside. Right? It's like, you take a walnut, right? You got to crack it open in order to get to the inside. So what do? The outside you throw away, right? Can't do anything with it anyway. Throw it away, but you can take the inside. You can eat the inside. So he says the bad things, he says, the heresy, I throw out. I don't even let it enter my mind. But the good things that he says, I don't take. Because they're not totally bad. Right? And there was a fire, the Gemara says, that when Elisha ben Abuya, when Acher died, so there was a fire that came through his grave. So what happened? His transgressions were so great he couldn't go into paradise, couldn't go into the Garden of Eden. But his transgressions his mitzvahs, right, were so great, that he still had to be punished. So it was a catch-22. Right? Question is, he can't go to paradise. He can't get his soul fixed up. Right? He's stuck. He's in limbo. So Rebbe Meir said, when I die, I'm going to take him in. I'm going to take him into paradise. There's nothing worse than being in limbo, as far as what I know. Meaning that when a person dies, what happens? You want to get judged. Going to hell is a form of judgment. It's perfection of the soul. It's a purging of the soul of all the terrible things we did. And hopefully there's something left of us. We're able to go to paradise. We're able to go to the Garden of Eden. So it helps us. It purges us from sin. But if you don't get judged, that's, as far as I understand, without getting into Kabbalah, this is a horrific thing. Because then the soul doesn't know what to do. Soul's being slingshots, what we call purgatory, or kafakel as it's known. The soul's being slingshot. I don't know how this works as a pure, not in a physical body, but it's like being slingshot from one end of the universe to the other, while it's being chased by Malchei Chabola, by angels of destruction. Right? So here, the soul was going through terrible persecution. It doesn't get eternal rest. Getting eternal rest means let it get judged. Let God judge it. And even if the soul has to go to hell, has to go to Gehenna to get judged, to get purged of all the terrible things it's done, that's a level of atonement. That's worth something. But if it doesn't get to that point, the soul goes through absolute, I don't want to say hell, because it goes through a lot of difficulty. lot of difficulty. Getting fixed up is a level, right? It's a level. Whatever portion a person is going to have in the world to come, it's going to come through this atonement, through this suffering the next world. Could be. Person will suffer in this world also, right? But probably not going to suffer enough. Hopefully we will. But, maybe we're not going to suffer enough in order that we still have to suffer later, right? So that's atonement. 100%, that's atonement. So now there's an obvious question. So we'll deal with the original question in a minute or a couple minutes. How does somebody that great, Elisha ben Abuya Acher as he's known, the other one as he's known, how could someone sat on the Sanhedrin? How could he sit on the Sanhedrin and go off and go sour? So what happened? Right? So Tosfos explains over there, the Gemara in Chagiga 15a. Tosfos goes through a whole story, brings down from the Yerushalmi, from the Jerusalem Talmud, and he says the following. He said, when Elisha ben Abuya was born, his father Abuya was very close, to the higher ups in Rome, and invited all these people to the bris, to circumcision. So all these rabbis come, all these dignitaries come. As the rabbis are sitting and learning, there's a pillar of fire, the Yerushalmi says. Pillar of fire comes down, surrounds them. So Elisha ben Abuya's father said, hey, you guys came to burn down my house? So they said, no, this is the power of Torah. That they were surrounded by this fire. Right? They were surrounded by this fire. So Elisha ben Abuya's father said, if that's the power of Torah, that's what I want to have for my son. That's the greatness I want for my son. Now, what happened? Who held the baby, the son that's called the sandak, right, at a bris? He's the one that held the son. He held the son at the bris. Now, why is it a bad thing for a non-religious Jew or, a marginally religious Jew, to hold the child at a bris? Because that person looked at like an altar. It's like you're placing your child on an altar. Now that means if a person has negative thoughts or impure thoughts, while that's going on, it can affect the child. You're going to say, come on, science, holy science, has ever proved such a thing? No, never proved it. I don't care if science proved it, not proved it, doesn't matter. This is what it says. That a person's thoughts can have an effect even when the baby's sitting there going through a circumcision. And you see, what was the father's thoughts? His thoughts were, guess what? I want this greatness for my son. What we call not for the sake of heaven. Shalom lishma. Right? Negative. A negative intention there. Right? It wasn't for the sake of heaven. So that's why it's crucial that anyone has a child, they have a boy, that whoever's going to hold the child should be a righteous person. At least they should keep Shabbos. They should keep Torah, should keep mitzvahs. Because what type, imagine, you're going to put the child on someone, don't know anything about Torah and mitzvahs. So you're putting them on an altar, that's fractured, more than fractured. It's broken. You're putting them on a broken altar. Right? So this can have a totally negative effect. Totally negative effect. Now, the grandfather of the child could say, hey, that's my honor. I should have that honor. So if that person desecrates Shabbos, whether they know or don't know, it really doesn't matter. Right? They desecrate Shabbos, they have a status of a non-Jew. They don't keep Torah mitzvahs. You say maybe they keep a little bit here, a little bit there. For argument's sake, they don't keep Torah mitzvahs. They don't keep Torah mitzvahs. Who knows what thoughts are going through their mind. But you're putting the child on a broken altar. So what's going to happen? That can have an influence. Totally have an influence. Take it one step further. Moshe Schneider, blessed memory, my Rebbe's Rebbe in England, refused to take money from people desecrated Shabbos. The yeshiva was in dire straits. They were basically starving during the war, right? The famous story, Moshe Reichman, of blessed memory, he would go around to, getting day-old bread from a bakery run by Shomer Shabbos Jews who kept Shabbos. They would get day-old bread. They were starving pretty much. Moshe Schneider gave him a blessing that because he did that, he blessed him that he should be able to be farnes to help a lot of people, with charity. And he did. He grew up a, multi-billionaire. Helped a lot of yeshivas, a lot of places. So the story of my Rebbe was that because he woke everyone up early, for davening, for prayer, he gave him the blessing he should light up the world in Torah, right? So they say the story of Moshe and Moshe. Moshe Reichman got the blessing of, having wealth. And Moshe Sternbuch, my Rebbe, got the blessing of, of being a Torah giant. And both blessings happened. Moshe Reichman became very wealthy. My Rebbe, he is the Gadol Ador today. He is the greatest rabbi of this generation. Nothing to talk about. Whether you agree with him or not doesn't matter. No, there's nobody like him in this generation left. So at the end of the story, the epilogue of the story was, they say that Moshe Reichman said he wished he had the other blessing. So I heard that. So I mentioned to my Rebbe this. I said, "Is it true? Is it true? He wanted the other blessing." I said, "I heard such a version." So being as close to him, so I didn't feel any embarrassment. I said, "Is there such a version? Is there such a version to the story?" So he looked at me and he said, "Go ask him. Call him up and ask him." That was the answer I got. I can't ask him now. He died a number of years ago, right? But that was his answer. He said, "Go ask him." I don't know what I know. He said, "Go ask him." Right? But both blessings were established. So Moshe Schneider refused to take money from people who desecrated Shabbos for the sake of the yeshiva. Why? Because he said the money they give, that has power in the walls of the yeshiva. They're keeping the walls of the yeshiva strong because they're donating money. So Moshe Schneider said, "I don't want one single ounce of influence that's negative going into this yeshiva. So I'm not taking money from people who desecrate Shabbos." But they were in dire straits. It didn't matter. He didn't care. Now, some would say, why can't you take money from somebody desecrate Shabbos, giving them a merit, cause them to do other mitzvahs? Right? It's a merit for them. So some people would say it's okay. Right? There are rabbinic authorities say you're allowed to do it. There, Moshe Schneider held, and the others held not that way. They want 100% kosher money. They don't want money that's being made from being desecrating Shabbos. They want 100% pure money. But the yeshiva could be in dire straits. Yeshiva was in dire straits. 100% during the war. But it's very interesting, because a lot of Torah giants, my Rebbe included, came out from that yeshiva. Came out from that yeshiva. The guy of Tuvi of Weiss, a blessed memory, just passed away, right, a month ago, give or take. Right, he was there. My Rebbe was there. Right, you have a Matazal Solomon should be well. In America, it's in Lakewood, New Jersey. And he should be well. He came out of there. A lot of people became Torah giants learning under Moshe Schneider. Who was Moshe Schneider's Rebbe? The Chofetz Chaim. Learned by the Chofetz Chaim. Right? So, that yeshiva produced greatness. Absolute greatness. Last generation. Right? A who's who. Number of people came out there. Giants among men. Among Torah. Giants. What's one of the reasons? Not just how great he was, because the money that came in was 100% pure. And that money affected the walls, and it has an effect. You're going to say it's hocus pocus, abracadabra, this, that. Has an effect. We hold it has an effect. So too, the one who holds the baby at a bris, the big honor, the biggest honor at the bris, biggest honor at the circumcision. Now, Shouldn't a grandfather get the honor? Should get the honor. At least once. But if they desecrate Shabbos, not holding by Torah mitzvahs, it's forbidden to give to them. Absolutely forbidden. Because of the negative connotation. It's like here you're putting your child, on an altar that's crushed, that's broken. I'll give another example. Right? We just read about the story of Cain and Abel. Right? We just read over Shabbos the story of Cain and Abel. Right? So what happens? Cain and Abel both understand they have to bring sacrifices. Build an altar, put a sacrifice up. We know that Abel's sacrifice accepted, Cain's not. Why wasn't Cain's sacrifice accepted? God wanted him to repent. He got angry, this, that. Why wasn't it accepted? What did he put on the altar? It wasn't a broken altar. What did he put on the altar? Flax. Here he put flax on the altar. It's kind of like he's saying, God, I understand I have to bring a sacrifice. Got this beautiful altar, fine, and I put dandelions. Put dandelions on an altar. Right? Imagine your 3-year-old comes home, comes with a cup of dirt, dandelions, gives it to his mother. His mother's going to take it, going to water it, going to put it by the window, get plenty of sun, plenty of sunlight. It's beautiful. If her husband gave her that, she's going to take it and throw it in his face. Big difference. Big difference. So you're going to say, okay, it's not a broken altar. You're right. It's not a broken altar, but what are you putting on the altar? It's like you're putting something and you're debasing the altar. That's what you're doing. So you have a non-religious person. And again, people say, it's hocus pocus, abracadabra, doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, it does. It does. That has an influence. Tosfos over there says that was the problem. That was the beginning of the end of Elisha ben Abuya. Then he started having questions. He started reading secular things. He started looking at all kinds of, other so-called religions. And then he had a breaking point. What was the breaking point by Elisha ben Abuya? So the end of the Gemara in Chulin says that he saw a child doing the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKen. What's the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKen? The mitzvah of Shiluach HaKen is sending away the mother bird and taking the eggs. And anyone who says, the Gemara says, anyone who says that's an act of cruelty is heresy. It's a decree. Right? Shoo away the mother bird, you take the eggs. What does the Torah say on that mitzvah? It says if a person does it, they're going to get long life. So the child, not only is the child doing that, his father says, climb up on the ladder, go shoo away the mother bird, bring me down the eggs. Now he's listening to what his father says. What's the 10 Commandments? What does it say? Honor your parents, and you're going to get long life. So you got two mitzvahs, only two mitzvahs in the Torah that tell me you get long life if you do them, if you keep them. Okay, what happens? So the child climbs up, shoos away the mother bird, takes the eggs. As the child's coming down, the child falls off the ladder and dies. Elisha ben Abuya says this makes no sense. He says it makes absolutely zero sense. Here you got two mitzvahs. Both say explicitly you're going to get long life. How can it be? How can it be that this child now dies doing both mitzvahs? Elisha ben Abuya says Torah can't be true. And that's when eventually he leaves everything. He totally leaves the fold. It comes on the Ben Ish Chai. Ben Ish Chai more than 100 years ago. Ben Ish Chai known the Darshan of Baghdad. The Darshan, he gave all these sermons, and he spoke about these homiletic texts in the Gemara, and he explained to them, to his people that he was learning with everyday people. So this work's called the Ben Yoyada. So the Ben Yoyada, I always say when I learn one of these homiletic texts, when I see this commentary, it's either very simple explanation or 100% Kabbalah, right? Nothing in between. So, I always think, when I see something so deep, what he brings down, I was like, wow, imagine the people he's teaching. Simple people. Couldn't have been that simple. Because if he's telling all these lofty ideas, then he's telling the common people, not going to know anything, not going to understand him. But obviously, he gave it over. They must have understood something. So they had to be great people in their own right. Regardless, what does the Ben Ish Chai over there say? Ben Ish Chai says an amazing thing. Ben Ish Chai says that, guess what? He didn't fulfill either mitzvah. The child didn't come along and fulfill either mitzvah. Right? I got to tell you what the rabbis say in the Gemara, whatever. I jumped the gun here, but I'll give you what the Ben Ish Chai says. He said, didn't fulfill either mitzvah. So if he didn't fulfill either mitzvah, did he give the eggs to his father? No. Did he take the eggs and, got to the ground and was able to fulfill the mitzvah, do it completely? No. He didn't do either mitzvah. If he didn't do either mitzvah, then getting long life doesn't apply. Totally doesn't apply. But I jumped the gun. Because what do the rabbis tell him? The rabbis tell him that's not what it means. You're claiming it means long life in this world. Right? When it says long life, doesn't mean this world. It means you're going to have long life in the next one. Right? Whatever that means. You're going to have long life in the next one. So the rabbis explain he didn't understand what the verse meant. He misinterpreted the verse. He said, you think it means in this world? Doesn't mean this world, means the next world. They disagreed with him. He went off anyway. But they disagreed. So comes along the Ben Ish Chai says, he didn't fulfill either mitzvah. So even if you want to tell me, according to Elisha ben Abuya, in this world, he's going to get long life. He didn't fulfill it. Forget about the next world. He didn't fulfill it in this world. He didn't do the mitzvah. He didn't finish it. So says the Ben Ish Chai. But just because he saw that was the final straw. Right? But Tosfos also brings down, you can always see him, walking around with books of heresy. So that's what did it. It was all these, bad ideas, all these treif ideas. That's what did it. That's what made him have all these doubts, right? But it still wasn't enough to throw him off until he saw this. Till he saw this event. But you have to understand, he was a person on the Sanhedrin, knew 70 languages, top of his game, one of the top rabbinic authorities of the day. And the fact that he was able to go off based on, as Tosfos says, based on his father had negative intention over it, or he had intention for something that wasn't fitting for him. It wasn't for the sake of heaven. Oh yeah, let him learn Torah. Let him be a rabbinic scholar. But you know why I want him to be such a rabbinic scholar? So he can bring down fire from heaven. So he can bring that unbelievable fire, that spiritual fire. I want him to have that power. That's not what Torah is. That's not what the purpose of Torah is. The purpose of Torah, mentioned last night in Pirkei Avos, and that's for our fathers. What's the purpose of Torah? The purpose of Torah is to draw me close. And if it says in Pirkei Avos, I learned a lot of Torah, and I'm going to think I'm God's gift to the world, how can I do that? That's what I'm born to do. That's my obligation. I have an obligation to learn. So if I have an obligation to learn, so even if I learned a lot, even if I've gone through all of Shas, the entire Talmud, all the Midrashim and everything, that's what I'm required to do. That's my obligation. How can I be conceited? How can someone who learns be conceited? There's so much to know. There's so much to learn, levels upon levels upon levels, right? But to learn for the sake of using it against other people and to have power through it, no. That is totally the wrong way. So we say, Torah can have an unbelievable power. Torah can have the power. It can have the power, to do good things. And Torah can also be what we call sama mavis. It can also bring a person to death. You're going to say two opposite extremes? How can Torah have that power in both ways? Because if we misuse it, or we don't give it the proper respect that we should, we could pay with our lives. Give an example. Right? There's a mourning period between Passover and Shavuos. 49-day mourning period. What's the mourning period for? 24,000 students of Rebbe Akiva that died. Can't imagine who these students are. But every day, if you make a calculation, it's like 750 people dying every single day. Sorry, for 33 days. 33 days. You have like 760 something dying every day. These are all great students. A plague, an unbelievable plague here. Rebbe Akiva didn't get discouraged. He had a bunch of other students, and they're the ones that passed oral law down. Right? He didn't give up. But what happened? 24,000 great students. So the Gemara says, what happened? They didn't show proper respect one to another. You know what they say by these homiletic texts? You can either learn, a friend of mine would say, you can either learn in 5 minutes or 5 years. What in the world does that mean? You're talking about Torah, giants of the generation. They didn't show respect. They didn't show respect one for the other. Hard to imagine. Very, very hard to imagine. Not my question. Right? It's an obvious question. They didn't show respect. How they not show respect? How they in the world that they didn't show respect? The one possible answer is, normally, person learns in yeshiva, you learn with a study partner. You learn with someone else. Because you bounce off ideas, because you have your own biases. So you bounce off ideas. This is what it means. It doesn't mean, what's your proof, what's not your proof. The question is, when a person learning with someone else, do you knock down what they say because you want to hear what you have to say? Or do you knock it down because it's really not true? See, the whole point of what we do is to get to the truth, to get to absolute truth. This is what the text says. Okay, what does it mean? What are the ramifications? How does it apply to my everyday life? Right? That was ingrained in my head also. You look at everything practically. Practically. I think give a person more enjoyment of learning. Because if you learn a lot of things that not necessarily practical, so okay, very interesting ideas, but it's not practical. Right? You learn the laws, let's say, of sacrifice. Or purity and impurity, what I'll call spiritual cooties, for lack of better term. So what happens? Okay, very nice, but we don't have such connection to it. Why don't we have such a connection to it? Because it's not applicable today. Do we have a temple in Jerusalem today? We can bring sacrifices? No, we don't have. I mean, people may try and sneak a sheep up to the Temple Mount, but never going to happen, right? The police will stop you. If the police don't stop you, certainly the Arabs are going to stop you. You're not going to get that far anyway. Can't bring sacrifice. Impurity only applies in certain cases today, right? The Chofetz Chaim, of blessed memory, said, if the Messiah comes today, I'm ready to answer all these questions about sacrifices, purity, impurity. We wanted people to learn these, lemaisa, practically, what we have to do. So I asked my Rebbe once, I said, these two orders of Talmud, right? I said, they're also something we have to learn. These are what kind of questions, of course, right? We like to learn more practical things, laws of Shabbos, blessings, kashrus, a lot of interesting things. You got the laws of marriage, divorce, laws of, damages, a lot of information, right? Plenty of information. Come on, the laws of sacrifices doesn't relate to us. Laws of purity and impurity, most of it doesn't relate. So I said, they're a portion of Torah, right? So why do I laugh? Right? Because I can see his face saying, like, what are you, an idiot? What kind of question is that? Of course it's part of Torah, right? It's the last thing I'm learning now, all about sacrifices and, these type of things. The last thing I have left, in order to finish the entire Talmud so I can start again, learn it properly. So whatever, it's what I'm learning, right? But I joked. I said, it's a part of Torah, right? And he's like, why did I even bother with you? Why do I waste my time with you? So I always tell him to get, clear portion of the world to come because he had to deal with me. But okay, I digress here. But something, again, something like that, we may not resonate with us, but it's tough to learn it, right? We have to make it as practical as possible. Even if it's hard, right? So here, So here there's a difference of opinion. Exactly what the explanation is, that you're going to get long life for doing these mitzvahs. But here, Elisha ben Abuya, that was the final straw. When he saw this child die, it made no sense to him. And the rabbis explained. They said, you didn't understand what the verse meant. You blew it. You blew a simple explanation in the verse. Right? But that was the final straw. But up until that point, he had all these questions, different things, looking at all kinds of different philosophy. Secular philosophy. And it cost it, and he paid a price. If you read the book of Ecclesiastes, right? King Solomon wrote the book of Ecclesiastes. We read it on Sukkot. We read it on Shabbos of Sukkot, right? And basically, he says everything's vanity, right? Everything's vanity of vanities. He said, I was the king, the king of Jerusalem, right? So meaning that he got knocked off. Question is, if he came back, he didn't come back. A little question. Regardless, he said, basically you go through it. He says, I looked into all the philosophy of the world. And he said, there's nothing greater than Torah. Right? That's basically his conclusion. I looked at everything else, and you can say, how did it not have an effect? How did it not have an effect? Okay, so he's the wisest of all men. To others, it can have an effect. It can have a negative effect, a very negative effect. So now, back to what we said before. My Rebbe said, the hint over here is that the Ketores itself, the incense, so to speak, can only be brought inside. Cannot be brought from the outside. If it's brought from the outside, what's the problem? Problem is, Torah tells me you 100% are liable for death penalty. That's what the Torah says. So now my Rebbe says, and this is where we open the Pandora's box, and he says that Torah has to be pure. Can't add anything to it. Forget about the secular psychology. Forget about it. One of my rabbis, who happens to be a psychologist, told me a lot of the stuff is absolute heresy. He went through it, right? But, if a person's not holding there, you won't know. You won't know, it's good information, not good information. I mean, some people could probably tell. But, what's he saying over here? He's saying this type of thing. He says Torah has to be 100% pure. 100% pure. So it's kind of an oxymoron when you say Torah psychology. Because by definition, psychology is not Torah in general. There might be some aspects of it that fit in line with Torah. I'm not going to say it all doesn't. Right? There could be some things that do. But my guess is that a lot doesn't. A lot of it's very foreign. Very foreign to Torah. So what he's saying over here is, do not take something from the outside, bring it within. Right? All the more so, the wisdom of the nations have no place here. It has no place in Torah. Right? Now, does that mean they don't have wisdom? They could have wisdom. We're not going to deny that. Right? If you say the nations have wisdom, the Gemara says you can believe them. If you say the nations have Torah, yeah, you don't believe them. Right? If they say we have Torah, you don't believe them. Right? Even someone who's a Noahide, they have a portion in Torah. But the Torah wasn't given to them. Torah wasn't given to non-Jews. No offense. Any non-Jews listening, it wasn't given to you. God chose us. We chose him. 100%. Right? So therefore what? Therefore you shouldn't mix the two. When you mix the two, you run into problems. That's what he's saying. So Torah psychology could be an oxymoron. Just like military intelligence. You can say that's an oxymoron. Notice they have intelligence by the military. Right? Some people would say. Right? It's an oxymoron over here. It doesn't fit. Because psychology, in many ways, is antithetical to Torah. It doesn't go hand in hand with Torah. And if that's the case, it's dangerous. If a person can take certain ideas and make it fit into Torah, so to speak, it's also dangerous. Because what you're saying is okay. I want to put it in, and see where it fits in the Torah. So I'll tell you a very fundamental mistake I once made. I was learning the Ramban, Nachmanides on the Torah, and when it says that God breathed in the spirit of man, breathed in life into the spirit of man, we understand God gave man a soul, breathed in the spirit of life, right? Which the Aramaic translation says, gave us a ruach mamala, the ability to speak, meaning the ability to reason. Animals also speak. We don't understand them unless we play Dr. Doodle, but we don't understand them. So it doesn't mean they don't speak, but they're programmed DNA. They choose to eat, not to eat, doesn't matter. They're programmed. So we have the ability to make decisions. We can make good decisions. We can make bad decisions. So what's the point? What's the point over here? So we have that ability, right? We have that ability. But when we go against, when we take other things, let's say better, when we take other things and try and put it into Torah, right? Meaning the Ramban over there says, I thought the Ramban was saying that there's a specific amount of time where you have man being created and until the soul goes in. In other words, I wanted to say in the name of the Ramban that it looks like maybe there's a proof for evolution. Maybe there was a time, some amount of time, whatever that is, before man got the soul. Now, what's man without a soul? Essentially, nothing. Can't live without a soul. So, question's been asked. So, what do you do with primordial man? Right? Cro-Magnon man, and these other, whatever you want to call them. So we don't believe in evolution. Evolution never been proven. Right? But what I get hammered with? Why would you even try and explain, according to this, something that's faulty? Something that's not true? Right? Some people say, they were on a level than we were, but they still had the status of a human. Or you tell me they weren't human, they were animals. They were some type of animal. I don't know. Whatever they were. But bottom line is when the soul goes in, a human being is alive. The question is, when does the soul go in? That's the whole discussion also. Does the soul go in at conception? Or does the soul go in when the baby's born? So that's a difference of opinion. Right? Regardless, a person will not live, Jew or non-Jew, if they don't have a soul. We all agree that the Torah says we are born b'tselem Elokim. Every human is born in God's image. So Jews have different obligations than non-Jews. But we have different aspects of the soul. We have different obligations. But everyone's creating God's image. 100% we're all creating God's image. So if that's true, when are we creating God's image? What does that mean? Right? It means that we have the ability to make decisions. God gives part of himself to us, whatever that means. That's part of the eternal soul that everybody has. Now, that being the case, question is what we do with it and how we use it. But if the soul goes out, a person dies. That's what gives a person life. Right? God breathed in the spirit of life. Oh, Adam and Eve ate from the tree. God said he's going to die. This is the decree of death. Separation, body and soul. That's why man cannot eat from the tree of life. Because they eat from the tree of life, guess what? They're going to live forever. They won't get atonement. They won't go in the ground. They have to go in the ground to get atonement. So by breathing in the spirit of life, that's what gives a person life. That gives the person, whether in pain, not in pain, they can go like this or not, gives them life, gives us the ability to think, to do things at whatever level. Now, at that time, our time is up in this world. What does God do? Right? Brings down the angel of death. The angel of death takes the soul out. Kind of like hypodermic needle. Squeezes in this poison into the mouth of the person, the soul jumps out. That's sort of how that's how it's brought down. Right? Kind of like this hypodermic needle, sends in this poison in the body, the soul can't stand it, the soul goes out. And then the soul goes out. But without the soul, the body's just nothing. That's why if a Jew dies, you shouldn't have an open coffin by a funeral. Not only that, you shouldn't have a private showing to the family, right? Whoever's obligated to mourn or whatever. Because that's a total embarrassment for the soul. Because, when you open that coffin, you see the person sitting there, right? Just like they're sleeping. They're sitting there. Can't get up, can't do anything. Total embarrassment from the soul because you're looking at nothing. You're looking at a piece of flesh. That's what you're looking at. No offense. That's what it is. Piece of meat without a soul. That soul, as it says according to Kabbalah, doesn't know what to do. Doesn't know what to do, doesn't know where to go. It's got, totally confused at this point before it goes up and gets judged. Can't imagine. It's very hard to put in words, but we can't imagine what it is. You're looking at something and this other spiritual entity, as we're going to call the soul, is sitting there going absolute out of its mind. Because the body is nothing without the soul. The soul can live for eternity, but in order to be in this world, it needs a body. The soul has to go in the body. Right? 100% soul has to go in the body. If the soul, the soul cannot be, in this world without a body. Now, there are times people have said, they see an image, there's stories, a certain road in a certain place where people driving down this road at night, all of a sudden they see an image of a person. They run over the person, right? Can't stop. They run over the person. They hear clunk, clunk, clunk. They stop. Look under the cars, nobody there. And it happens many, many times, over and over and over. Right? So this story, they ask the question, what happened? Well, what is this? So what can happen is, if a person doesn't get its true rest, sometimes what God will do, this person, what do? They committed suicide. How did they commit suicide? They ran in front of a car. Car driving down the street, bam, ran in front of it, got run over. Person died. Now, part of the atonement for that person is for that soul to come back, and it has to go through it again. Now, for how long? Can't answer. But that's part of the punishment. The Gemara tells the story of Titus. Titus at the time of the destruction of the temple. Before he died, he said, when I die, burn my body, take my ashes, spread it over the 7 seas, so God of Israel cannot take revenge against me. So the Gemara asks, okay, so what happened to Titus? What happened to him? So they brought him up, brought up his soul, and he said, what are you doing? What's going on? And he said, the God of Israel has punished me every single day for eternity. Can't imagine what this is. What does God do? So Titus says, gathers my ashes together, right? Takes my ashes from the 7 seas, puts me back together and burns me again. Every single day for eternity. So you can imagine what that is. If we could imagine if a person gets burned to death, God forbid. Imagine reenacting that over and over again. You feel the whole thing. You feel the whole thing again and again and again. So for Titus, that's going to happen forever. Forever. It's going to happen forever. For this person who has to go through getting run over again. That doesn't mean it's going to be forever. It depends how long that punishment is for. That's a mind-boggling idea. So normally we say a soul has to be in a body, in this world. Sometimes, a soul could be in this world somehow, technically without a body, but it's going from place to place, because could be it's being chased by angels of destruction, other things. Doesn't have its eternal rest. Right? We don't have to come in contact, with such people. We don't fathom this. We're not saying looking for this, in general. But suffice it to say, there are a lot of stories. Talmud brings up stories. They're more modern day stories about different types of things that show that a person had to come back to do certain things to fix up its soul. That reincarnation is a Torah concept. Remember, I said that in front of an audience speaking about reincarnation. That's the first thing I said. Well, I just want everyone to know reincarnation, is a Judaic concept, and like three people fainted. 3 people fainted. They're like, "Oh, I never knew. Never knew such a thing. Such a thing as reincarnation." But okay, the real concept. But the point over here is, see, there are a bunch of questions here. There are a bunch of questions here we'll get to. That's my Rebbe here says you got to be extremely careful. Have to be extremely careful here. Torah and psychology is an oxymoron. It's 100%. It's 100% an oxymoron. So you can have both. They don't mix. They don't mix in general. Someone's going to say, come on, aren't there Torah psychologists out there? There are people that are Orthodox Jews or other Orthodox Jews. They're psychologists, psychiatrists, right? Therapists. So they themselves have to be extremely careful. Extremely careful. Because there are a lot of things out there that are heretical. And a person can say, okay, so that's how we got onto this, into, Elisha ben Abuya, because Rebbe Meir said, I'll take out the bad and I'll only take what's good. So I'll take the pure Torah, the other stuff I'll throw out. Now, not so simple. If someone were to tell me, they're at the level, of Rebbe Meir, they're at that, extremely high level, we'll have a discussion. But Rebbe here is pointing out these things together are like poison. It's poison for Torah. The Rebbe says it's got to be pure Torah. Because if you mix other things in, what's going to happen? It's going to mess you up. Exactly what happened to Elisha ben Abuya. And he read all this philosophy. Didn't help him. Made it worse. Right? Miraculously didn't affect King Solomon in a negative way. Could have also easily gone off. Right? So I'll tell another story. Another story I always tell. Right? With the Baal Tanya, first Lubavitcher Rebbe. He had a student that wanted to go to university. So the Rebbe warned him. The Baal Tanya warned him and said, you got to be careful. There's a lot of heresy there. So the student told him, said, listen, no offense, I've been learning by you for many years. I didn't become so righteous. Right? If I go there, I'm not going to be so bad either. The Baal Tanya said, you're making a big mistake. Reason is because impurity, how does a person become impure? By touch. Become impure by touch. To absorb Torah, that takes a lot of effort. Takes a tremendous amount of effort. You want impurity? Very easy. You can be impure by touch. And someone, has gone down a bad path and they've done it over and over again. ask them, okay, it's wrong. It's bad. It affects me in a negative way. You got to stop. Tell a smoker that. He understands. Show them all the movies, what his lungs look like after they smoke and this and that. Right? They understand. Right? I'll tell you another story, another good story. Right? It was on a boat, and there was I think it was on a boat. There was a lecture by this doctor about the terrible thing of smoking. You're talking like 70 years ago, more. And he gives a whole lecture for an hour. The bad effects of smoking on a person. So 10 minutes after the lecture, what does the guy do? He lights up a cigarette. Can't make this stuff up. He lights up a cigarette. So Mary asked him, what are you doing? You just spent an hour lecturing how bad it is. How can you light up a cigarette? He says, you're right. You're right. It's really bad for you. But you know what? It's something, I'd rather give up 10 years of my life than give this up. It's too enjoyable. That makes no sense. You're willing to, forfeit your life. But now you're going to say, look at all what the tobacco companies did. They put nicotine in and make it much more difficult to, it's part of your system now. It's addictive. So they made it tremendously hard to fight against. Yeah, they got sued up the gazoo a number of years ago. Because now they have to warn and this and that, fine. Yeah, but they got people addicted, can't stop. So people, there are plenty of people that love to stop, but can't stop. Forget the enjoyment. It's just, it's too much part of your system. Too much part of your system. It's like someone drinks a lot of coffee, then come a fast day. They don't stop a few days before. What happens on a fast day? They get the shakes. Right? Because the body needs it. Their body craves it. So something like that, that's now it's chemical. Something chemical, I'm not going to say impossible to stop. It's not impossible. There are people that smoke that stop. I don't know, through the patch, through other things, whatever it is. There are people that are able to stop. But it's hard. It's extremely hard, but, don't they know what it's doing to their body? Don't they know it's going to cut off years of the... They know that. Too enjoyable to stop. Too addictive to stop. Right? You're going to say, come on. That doesn't make a lot of sense. There are things that a person does, they know it's bad, and they just fall back in the same trap. And they just do it again. And they just do it again. Maybe sometimes there's a certain amount of time they stop, but they get back to it. They're under stress, other things. It's hard. Life is hard. No question about it. So if that's true, if that is true, then you're going to say anything I do that's negative, it's impossible to stop. No, not necessarily. Depends on what it is. But the problem is, this is good after Elul, after Rosh Hashanah, after Yom Kippur. Once we do it, we trample on it, and we do it again, we feel like it's already permissible. It's part of your psyche. But God's going to say, okay, it's part of your psyche. I didn't tell you to do it. I didn't make it part of you. You did it. So what if God makes something part of you that's hard, right? He wired you a certain way, gave you tremendous anger, other things, and you act on it. You're going to say, it's not my fault. You wired me that way. Let's say God wired you a certain way. Did God say, I want you to act on it? No. He doesn't want you to act on it. So why do you wire that way? Come on. If I had the answers to all these questions, I wouldn't be wasting my time in this class. I'd be on the cover of every magazine if I had all the great answers. We don't know why one person's wired one way or another. Some people get angry easier, some not. Some have wealth, some have poverty, some have problem with parents, some don't, some this, some that. We're thrown with all kinds of things that we're not in control of. Mishnah Pirkei Avos says, you're born against your will, you die against your will. Parentheses, Kaufman would say you still have to live. So many things we're not in control. 100% we're not in control. So I have to make the best of it. So a person can say, so why'd you give this to me? Okay, so then God's going to show you, the bigger picture later. Can't understand it now. Pretty much impossible to understand now. Some of it may have to do with what our soul went through before. Right? And then we have to be purged out of it. We have to pay the price. Could be things we've done ourselves. Book of Job, I think the Ramban there says, when some of his friends are trying to give him advice, why he's going through what he's going through. Right? Some say, come on, must have been, you did something, or maybe it's just your bad luck. Maybe it's the way the stars are set up, or something like that. But what does the Ramban there say? The Ramban says, we're gonna get upstairs after 20 years. We're gonna say, God, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? God's gonna say, didn't you listen to Kaufman's classes? Didn't he tell you that what the Gemara says? The Gemara says, if a person wants to go in the right way, I'll help you. I'll be there with you. I'll help you. You want to go in the wrong way? Who says I have to stop you? God says, don't you know? Kaufman's 615th commandment, don't be a moron. I didn't tell you to do this. I didn't tell you, like a football player did many years ago. Jumps into the river, to the ocean to save someone, right? Saw people drowning, unbelievable acts. But he didn't know how to swim. He gets upstairs. If I was God, put on my funny mustache, my funny glasses, and I would say, come on, you didn't know how to swim. Right? Right? So the guy says, why didn't you save me? He says, I didn't tell you to jump in. I didn't make you want to be the hero. You wanted to be the hero. But then you realize you didn't know how to swim. But you wanted to be the hero. Even if you're doing it for the sake of heaven, why didn't God save him? Why did God not save him here? So I'm going to answer. Potential answer. And that is, it's like playing a video game. When you play a video game, you have a certain number of lives. You get more points, you get more lives. What happened? You didn't have any lives left. He had no merits left to protect him. It could have been, he could have used up 1,000 points. A person can be saved from a dangerous situation. I'll throw this out there. Well, I'm just throwing out all kinds of other things. A person can be in a dangerous situation, get saved, but you know what? A lot of his credits, a lot of his mitzvahs get wiped out because of it. Let's say a person at that point had, 10 billion mitzvahs, and God wants to keep you around, so he saves you miraculously. So you just lost 6 million right there. Those mitzvahs can protect you. But if you don't have the mitzvah to protect you, you don't have extra lives. So potential, again, I'm not playing God here. I don't know what went on. My guess would be if he didn't have merit to be protected, he died. That's what happened. He died. He didn't have that merit. But God's going to tell him straight out, I didn't tell you to jump in. And you don't know how to swim, or you're not a good enough swimmer. I get it. You did it for, you did it for the right reason. Let's say you're motivated by the right reason. I didn't tell you to put yourself in danger. You're not allowed to put yourself in danger. If it's a doubt whether it's a danger, something else. Person runs into a burning building, tries to save people, even family members, and the building explodes. He's going to come out like a hero. I mean, he dies. People are going to say, what? That's absolute, how heroic, right? We can't judge. We can't judge what's going through a person's mind. We don't know how God's going to look at it. I would think, again, my puny brain would say, it's a burning building. Who says you're allowed to go in? It's a danger. You're not allowed to put yourself in danger. Yeah, but my family's there. I get it. No one should be ever in such a situation. But who says your blood is any redder than theirs? Who says you're allowed to jump in, put yourself in danger? Nobody. You could forfeit your life that way. Right? That could be considered suicide. You're jumping into a situation, 100% danger. If it's not 100% danger, right? It's a potential danger, but it's not 100%. Could be a person's allowed to. Depends on what the circumstances are. A person goes somewhere that's potentially dangerous. Things flare up here and there, and something happens. That called suicide? I asked my rabbi this question once. Said no. Because it's not potentially dangerous all the time. I'll give an example. Person went to Joseph's tomb. Everybody knows extremely dangerous to go. You need a police escort. You need to get a police escort. They're going to firebomb. They're going to try and shoot at you. Different things. But people go anyway. Now, what if you didn't go with a police escort? You went yourself, a bunch of friends. You had guns, whatever. And you go there. And you end up getting killed, hurt, whatever. Let's say killed, God forbid. That could be suicide. You're going to say, but it's not a guarantee you're going to die. Well, it's pretty good. Person goes there, there's a very good chance you're going to get lynched. Right? Unless you have real protection. Unless you have serious protection. It's kind of crazy that, we can't go out there because of it, and you need all this protection to go there. They're not smart. I wouldn't say it's smart at all. People do it. And every single time it happens, they get attacked. It's not like once in a blue moon. Every single time. You'll hear people went to Joseph's tomb, they got shot at, Molotov cocktail, something. Doesn't mean necessarily people get injured or anybody dies. Right? Doesn't necessarily mean that. But they're in a dangerous situation. You're going to say, but they want to go pray there. Shouldn't God protect them? Shluchei mitzvah eino nizakid. Someone who goes to do for the sake of a mitzvah, they should be protected. They're not going to get damaged, literally. Except when the damage is right there. When the danger is right there, then that doesn't apply. So a person goes in a place that's dangerous, say, oh, God's going to protect me. Don't leave your mind open till your brains fall on the floor. That's insanity. 10 times out of 10, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to say 10 times out of 10. I'm that confident. It always happens. You hear about there's a shooting in Joseph's tomb. Why is there a shooting? Why are there Molotov cocktails thrown? Not just because they want to burn it down. They've done it twice. More than twice, I think. Because there are people who go there trying to pray there. I get it. It's a holy place. They want to go. For goodness sakes. It's dangerous. More than dangerous. There are other places less dangerous. And if a person would get injured or, God forbid, killed in such a situation, they get blood on their hands. Thrown. They're foolish. Nothing to talk about. If anything happens to them, they're absolute fools. They deserve what they get. They don't have divine protection over here. Because even though we say if they're doing it for the sake of the mitzvah, they shouldn't get damaged, that's only when the damage is not outright. The damage isn't there. But if the danger is there, then you're a fool. You gotta say, God's gonna protect me. You're a fool. You're going into a lion's den. Right? Anyone wants to try this? I don't recommend it. A person driving somewhere in Israel, put on ways to go in an Arab village. See what happens. People have been lynched or almost lynched. Almost every single time. And miraculously, a lot of them come out. Some with injuries, some without injuries. By mistake, Waze took them, to an Arab village. Next thing they know, they're surrounded by Arabs. Can happen. 100% it can happen. These people walk around, walk around Israel, nothing happens to them. You walk in their territory, forget it. So, repeat after me, Iskadal v'Iskadal. That's a mourner's prayer. It's over. They'll lynch you, nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. So you gotta say, but where's my divine protection? Who says it's divine protection when you act foolhardily? That's being a fool. Essentially being a fool. Right? So the Rebbe says, right, we'll get back to this. Right? Torah has to be pure. Can't mix it with other things. There's an oxymoron of Torah and psychology. Doesn't mean the nations don't have wisdom. They can have wisdom. You got to be careful, though. Because that wisdom, a lot of times, does not go hand in hand with Torah. And a lot of times, it can be heresy. Yeah, I see there are a number of questions here. Let me deal with them, because I did talk about a lot of different things here. Person says, you're suffering, but you're grateful for Hashem and his mitzvahs with great joy. That means you're on a higher level. Everybody, let's say like this. Nobody goes through this world without suffering at some level. There are different levels of suffering. One level of suffering is that a person, is looking for change in their pocket when they have money and they take out the wrong change. That's also suffering. But there are people who suffer in different ways. Now, we say every day, you got to pray with great joy. What's the problem? Problem is we get beaten down in life. Life is hard. You know, we got people that cause us damage. You know, we're trying to survive. Other things, many things we go through. See, if we had the mentality, we understand everything comes from God. And the difference between Rebbe Akiva and Nachum Ish Gamzu. Nachum Ish Gamzu was Rebbe, right? What did Rebbe Akiva say? Kol David Rachman L'Toivav. Everything that God does is good. Is Rebbe Nachum Ish Gamzu much greater? Because what did he say? He says Gamzu L'Toivav. Oh, everything is good. It's a higher level. Not everyone's at that level. But Victor Miller, a blessed memory, one of the Torah giants of the last generation, he lived what the Chovos Levavos says. He saw the bigger picture. Nothing ever bothered him. Had 100% complete faith. God's going to take care of his needs. You know, he didn't flinch at anything. Nothing bothered him. Because he understood the greater picture and he lived it. Right? So if a person suffers and they're grateful, that's a huge thing. Right? 100%, that's a huge thing. Because, you know, there's a test of wealth and there's a test of poverty. The test of wealth is, person has money, are they going to help others that are in need? The test of poverty is, even the little that a person has, they have to be thankful for the little that they have. They have to be grateful. Right? So even if a person is going through great difficulty, you know, and they're happy, you know, they're grateful for everything God does. Yeah, that's a huge level. That is a huge thing. Because they understand the bigger scheme of things, but they're living the bigger scheme of things. I always say it's easier to know what to do, even though most people don't know what to do, but it's easier to know what to do than actually do it. You know, if I would listen to half the things I'd say, I'd look different. Right? Now, that wasn't a joke. Right? But you got to implement it. You got to work hard. Right? So if a person can look and say, okay, this is hard. You know, that's hard. The other thing's hard. But guess what? There's so many things to be thankful for. You're healthy. Be thankful for that. You know, a person, you know, you have a roof over your head. You're not living on the street. You have food. You're not starving. Health, a lot of things. You know, we have a lot of things to be thankful for. Right? Someone wants to reach a higher level when they're down. Right? They're feeling very, you know, they're feeling pretty crummy just because they're getting beaten down in life. Kaufman's Law, write down 10 things you're absolutely thankful for. Food, health, you know, not a pagan, that might be one thing. Happy going in this path, whether it's a Jew or as a Noahide. Right, person's married, you know, they're happily married, thank God for their spouse. You know, if they have kids and whatever, there are a million things to be thankful for. So even when a person's down in the dumps, look at that list and look at it again before you rip it up and burn it. Because we can get so angry, we forget. We very easily forget. You know, and we always say, if God wanted to make a person's life worse, he could. Do not ask. It could be worse. I see it on a daily basis. People come in collecting money for all kinds of things. I saw it today. Someone came collecting, father died, 6 little kids. About to be thrown out of their apartment. I mean, terrible things. Terrible things. Happens every day. Almost every day. Yeah, you know, all kinds of things. Money issues, health issues, family issues, everything combined. Huge things. So God gives us the ability to help others if we can. Right, that was Tornus Rufus' famous question to Rabbi Akiva. If your God can satisfy everybody, so why do you make poor people? To give rich people a portion of the world to come. For people that have money to help others. That's why he did it. Can't God support everybody? Yeah, he can. Not a problem. Not even an issue. But he makes people suffer, you know, in that way, so people have money can help. And they can have, you know, it can help them have a portion of the world to come. right? So a person is serving God with great joy, even though they're suffering. Yes, that's a big thing. That is not a small thing. That is like what Rav Avigdor Miller did. He put it into practice. I mean, he did it at a much higher level. He didn't believe anything he went through with any suffering at all. Okay, we have a lot of room to grow. There's no question. But even if someone's going through a difficult time, and they're able to serve God with great joy, that's a huge thing. So yeah, that's not a small thing. Right? We got to live it. I always say everyone can have the greatest faith in God when they got a lot of money in the bank. When the money's taken away or they're struggling, then let's see where their faith is. Let's see where their belief in God is. When everything's going good, God, fine. There's a story. Someone came to my Rebbe once before Rosh Hashanah, wanted a blessing. So Rebbe asked, what blessing do you want? So he said, my business has been very good this year. Thank God, no complaints. Business has been very, very good. The blessing I want is that God shouldn't meddle in my affairs. He should let things continue the way they are and not meddle in my affairs. I can't make this up. Rebbe says this every year before Rosh Hashanah. That's not a blessing. God interacts with. I spoke about this week or the end of last week on what do you call it? Parshas Bereishis. God interferes in history. He has a connection to his creation. He didn't just create the world and disappear. Kind of a problem philosophically. Where does an omnipresent being go? Right? If he represents the entire world, can run through a black hole, this, that, where's he go? Oh, there he is, hiding behind the rock. Boom! Like, where is he? Where is he? How can he not have a connection to creation? Right? So the fact that, a person can serve God even when they suffer is huge. Not an easy thing by any stretch. But, every person, I mean everybody, if they look, no matter how bad their lives seem, there's good. There are some good things, not all 100% bad. I'm not the eternal optimist, but it's not all bad. It's definitely not all bad. So if someone can overlook the difficulty and still serve God with great joy, that's huge. That is a huge thing. That's internalizing the message, seeing the bigger picture. It's not an easy thing to do, though. It's definitely not an easy thing to do. But that's what we have to do. No matter what, I say this all the time. That, God, whatever you throw my way, I'm still coming. I'm still going to get up and pray. I'm still going to do what I need to do. You do what you need to do. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm not going anywhere. I hope. We are in heart, right? Not going anywhere. So you need to do what you need to do. So what does that have to do with me? You're getting pushed into a corner. You're getting beaten down in life. Okay. So you probably deserve it. Or I probably deserve it for any number of reasons. Okay. What does that mean? What does that have to do with someone else? Someone smiles, you can't smile back. Well, you're going through a difficult time. Okay, everyone is. At some level. Gotta live it. It's not an easy thing to do. But someone who's able to do that and overcome it's huge. That is definitely not a small thing. Someone asks that Ganem was 11 months. Yeah. Wouldn't the body dying repeatedly for eternity not be in line? Oh, good question. Normally we say the mourner's prayer for 11 months. Some people, maybe you could say for 12 months, whole discussion whether in the 12th month you say the mourner's prayer or not. Some say only say it a few times, some say don't say it at all. Whatever. That's for a parent. Bottom line, usually you say the mourner's prayer for 11 months. Because no one's really that inherently evil. Right? We don't believe anyone's really that inherently evil. There are some people, okay, but most people today, not that inherently evil. Right? So now the question is, a person dying repeatedly doesn't that, what about God's compassion? Okay. Who says when someone does something so egregious as what Titus himself did? There are many terrible things Titus did. Totally egregious what he did. So God says, you know what? I don't have to have mercy on you. I do not have to have mercy. Who says he has to have mercy on everyone? It says, the Gemara says by, they brought up certain souls and asked them, it's a good thing to join the Jewish people, not join the Jewish people. They, one of the uncensored Gemaras, they bring up JC. And said, should you join? Says, yeah. And it said all these things. And what's his punishment? And they say his punishment is, that he's lying in excrement for all his days. So again, to say, with God's mercy, there are people that do horrific things who says God has to have mercy with them. God has compassion up to a point. For most people, I don't think it's questioned. God is going to have compassion. It depends the source of our soul, depends what we did. It depends on a lot of different factors. But as we said, most people are not that evil. I would say 99% of the people, or almost more than that, what I said is not going to apply. Totally not going to apply. For that really small percentage of people that, God says, that's it. I'm going to roast you for eternity because of all the terrible things you did. God does not have to have compassion in such a case. Why does he have to have compassion? So a person will say, but God has compassion in general. It's not infinite. Let's not make that mistake. It's not infinite. It depends on a lot of different things. A lot of different things. I'll give an example. The other way. Nebuzaradan, if you read the stories of what he did, terrible things he did in the time of the Second Temple, destruction of the Second Temple, killed thousands, right? He was a butcher of Babylon. That's what he was. He killed, thousands of Kohanim, whatever. He was a butcher, let's say. He was allowed to do tshuva. He converted. When I look at this on Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, I ask the same question every year. Why does God let him come back? Why does he let him come back? Let him die 1,000 different ways. Judge him unbelievably for what he did. You see, God has mercy. Somebody like that, such a butcher, God has mercy. If I were playing God, I'd roast this guy every day. Let his eyeballs come out. I would have a field day with it. Rip out his toenails, take out part of his nose. I would have, I won't go into the gruesome details. I've had fun with this person. Make him suffer. Make him suffer. But you gotta say, I'll take revenge. And there were a lot of Jews, imagine after the war, they had the opportunity to kill these Germans. They did it. A lot of them did it. Because that's not part of us. Look at the terrible atrocities they did. Experimentation, I don't have to go into detail. Gas people, murdered people, brutally. Killed children in front of the parents' faces. And now you have an opportunity to set the record straight. And you could torture them to no end at the end of the war. A lot of people just, want to get, rehabilitated, get nursed to health, and that was it. Non-Jews I could understand. They don't have these concepts. They don't have this idea of revenge. Not taking revenge and this and that. But look at all the cruel things that they did. So wouldn't you say it would be justified? That person lost his whole family, and you got this guy now. You got this butcher in this camp. He can't go anywhere. You can just cover him up like no tomorrow. They didn't do it. They didn't do it. Why not? It's an incredible thing. If you think about it, then they have a right to do it. An absolute right. In theory. But guess what? God's chosen people. And if they're God's chosen people, it doesn't give you the right, even under those circumstances, to carve someone up, to torture them. But look what they did. God will deal with it. Make no mistake. I give an example. Give a modern day example. They're running after Saddam Hussein. Anyone who remembers, and weapons of mass destruction, which they never found. But in any case, better that Iraq was never in Kuwait, took over 7% of the oil. Right, that's why they went after him anyway. All his power and all his money and everything he had. Where'd they find him? They found him in some pit somewhere, hiding underground like an animal, like an absolute animal. Okay, they hung him, they killed him, that was it. So with everything he had, all the power, right? He went underground living in the mud just to survive so he wouldn't get killed. God has his ways, God took care of him. God brought him down. God brought him down based on nothing. Seemingly on nothing. They didn't find anything. I'm not going to get into politics, we never do, but they didn't find anything. Listen, bottom line, it's better without him in the world. It's better they didn't take over Kuwait. Kuwait, no lovers of America, but they'll let him come in because, they don't want Iraq there. They don't want this bad man there. They found him in a pit, in mud, running for his life. That's how he lived for months, whatever, until they found him. Okay, they got him in the end. Died like a dog. Okay. Right? You don't think God's going to take care of him afterwards, all the atrocities and everything he did? Right? Murder is also against the Noahide laws. God's going to take care of him, but you know what? He got him in this world also. So somebody like that, okay, we don't know what's happening to him later. Guaranteed, he didn't just die and go poof. God have to have compassion for a person like that, what they did. God used him as a messenger, fine. He's got free will. He did all these terrible things. He's going to pay the price, 100%. He's gonna pay it. How much mercy should God have? Mangali Yamach Shemoy V'Zichur. His name be blotted out, may he rot, wherever he is. You don't think God's taking care of business? God's going to show mercy to such a madman? Not at all. I don't believe for 1 second he's having any rest. Not at all. His soul getting punished left and right, guaranteed. Why does God have to have mercy on such a person? Most people today, not that cruel. They're not going to deserve to be punished over and over and over again. But there are some people God's going to do that. He doesn't have to show mercy. Why do they have to show mercy? For most people, he'll show mercy, depending on what they did. You're right. For the very small percentage, because they did such egregious things, mercy goes out the window. God doesn't have to show mercy. People that cause Jews to go astray. They lose a portion of the world to come. They're also going to suffer. Also tremendously going to suffer. Right? Because they're causing other people to go astray. That God looks around and says, oh, big problem. Some will suffer more than others. Right? Could be even in this world. Look what Bilam did. Bilam got 24,000 Jews killed. Because God hates immorality. So he died by the sword. But they also say he got burnt. He got all corporal punishments in this world. Got choked, died by fire, died by the sword, was thrown around also. Skewer. Impact. Right. The question is, I say, you see that corporal punishment you can't do, you don't have a Sanhedrin, you don't have a temple in Jerusalem. But you see, it can still happen today. Bilam is an example. And by a non-Jew. So you're going to say, well, we don't have skewer. What would skewer? They took someone in a third-story building, took him by the waist and threw him on his head. Well, that should probably kill the person. If that doesn't, they took a huge rock, aimed for his heart. So you know what they say, if the left one doesn't get to, the right one will. He died. Right? That's the most severe punishment. At least that's what the rabbis say, most severe. Now, that being the case, we don't have that today. So it could be, person can say, let's say, God forbid, someone dies head on in a car accident. let's say, God forbid. What's a car accident? Impact. Skila. Can we say, oh, this person died and that, and they died because they transgressed, a prohibition, that they're going to get that punishment, desecrated Shabbos in public. This person, whether they know anything or not, they desecrated Shabbos in public. So now you see later on, years later, whatever the case is, however old they are, they die impact. Say, oh, look, desecrated Shabbos, that's the punishment. We don't know. We have no idea. Someone dies in a fire, you could say, look, or they might have been liable for death penalty by fire. But we don't know. But just because the punishment can't be enacted, the true corporal punishment cannot be reenacted because we don't have a temple in Jerusalem, right? And we don't have a Sanhedrin. It doesn't mean it totally disappears. Because people can die, different things, at what represent the corporal punishment today, they could go through and they could die that way. So what about God's mercy? Again, God, I think there's a mistake. People think God has infinite mercy. God does not have infinite mercy. He has a lot of mercy. I wouldn't call it infinite. Reason is, the Rambam says in the laws of repentance, there's a scale. Every city, every town, every state, every country, there's a scale. Scale's always going up and down. Good, bad, good, bad. Person does a good thing, the scale goes like this. Person does a bad thing, right? Scale is always going up and down. What happens if the scale is really on the side of evil? And it's there for a long time. God can say, okay, that's it. Everyone out of the pool, I'm going to make destruction over here. I'm going to cause a hurricane, right? I'm going to cause a tsunami. I'm going to wipe out half of Southeast Asia, right? Make a tsunami. That was back on the map. No pun intended. No pun intended. Why? Because that's judgment. Interesting. This hurricane that just demolished part of Florida. Some parts supposed to get hit, didn't get hit. Other parts got whacked. Got totally, why? Why they get totally whacked? Because obviously that's punishment. There are things going on there. God says the scale is too far down. Now I have to take matters in my own hands. So I'm going to use natural, quote unquote, disaster to do it. Not very popular to say, but that's the reality. So anytime something happens in a certain place, that's judgment. Total judgment. So a person say, what about the innocent people there? We don't believe they're innocent people. People get hit and they get damaged, or God forbid they die. It's their time to go. That's their time. And God takes them that way. But there's punishment. That's what happens. Right? So there's no such thing as, quote unquote, natural things. God's orchestrating. Why did Tampa not get hit as bad and Fort Myers got shellacked? And other places got, totally wrecked. Because there was judgment there. For whatever reason, Tampa didn't have it. Quote unquote, they lucked out. They didn't luck out. God didn't want to hit them as hard. For whatever reason. Last second, storm goes a different way. Right? No coincidences. So for whatever reason, God hit somewhere, then hit somewhere else. He had his reason. But that's judgment. There's mercy within judgment also. Let's say God forbid a person had a fire but only damaged one area. Then damaged the whole place. That's mercy. Could have been a lot worse. Could have been loss of life. Yeah, could have been 10 times worse. It wasn't. That's mercy. Right? But we have to realize mercy is not infinite. And I would agree. Most people, 99.9% of the people are not that inherently evil that they're going to get wiped out, every single time. They're going to get burnt and burnt and burnt and burnt. You're right. I agree. It's a very small percentage. But it doesn't mean God has infinite mercy forever. There are people who are going to get knocked around for a long time because of terrible things they did. Whatever it is, God will deal with them. And he'll deal with them in a severe way, if need be. Some more, some less. However he sees it. It doesn't mean God's mercy is infinite. It depends what the person did. If the person did such egregious things, God can say, you know what? You open up your mouth to me, I'm going to use you as an example, right? I'm going to use you, and I'm going to flatten you like a pancake over and over and over again. You'll be the poster boy. You'll be the poster. I don't know, what do you call it? The poster soul upstairs of what never to do. Could be. Yeah, somebody asks, as a Noahite person repents for their sins, can you say I'll go to heaven? Well, we can't say anything. How do you know? We hope if we do the right thing, we go in the right path. God should have mercy on all of us. So I would say if a person's holding by Torah mitzvahs and they're trying to go in the right direction, they repent for their sins to the best of their ability, yeah, they should have a portion of the world to come. But for a person to say, I'm going to go to heaven because I repented, yeah, I'd be very careful. I would be extremely careful what you say. Because if I were God, and I'm not, thank God, I think most people would be very happy. If I were God, I would say, oh, this person, comes Mr. S and he says, yeah, so-and-so over here says he deserves a portion of the world to come. He totally repented and he's going to heaven. Right? So Mr. S says, I want to look at his file. Let me open up his file over here. Let me see what he's done. Maybe it's true. Right? Maybe it's true. Maybe they do deserve a portion. Maybe they do deserve a place in heaven. Right? But what's Mr. S going to do? Mr. S is going to say, hey, look, he did this over here. He did this over there. Whatever. You're not perfect by any stretch. So why is he saying that, God? Do something. Whack him around a little bit. Now, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully I'm totally wrong. Right? But if a person says, one of the worst things a person can say, and you didn't say it, but, what's one of the worst things a person can say? They can say, I prayed very well. God's going to answer my prayers. That's one of the worst things anyone can ever say. Ever. Why? If a person says they prayed very well, God's going to scrutinize that prayer now. He's going to see what you said, what you did, this, that. He's going to open up your file. Why'd you open up your mouth? A person opened up their mouth and I prayed very good today. So God's going to answer my prayer. You prayed very good? Let me see. Where was your mind when you were praying? What were you thinking about? Where was the majority of your time? What were you thinking about? Oh, person got to be very careful. You say that. God's going to open up. God is going to open up a whole file here. You got to be very careful. Right? Should you say I'm going to go to heaven because I probably did tshuva? I would be very careful. I would be very careful. Question we could always ask is, I really do enough? We just came out of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Are we really now taking on what we set out to do? Did we really make a plan to change and really start fresh and be on fire every single day of every second of every day? Can you say that? I don't know anyone who could say that. I can't say that. Yeah, it's a lot of things. Start fresh, this, that. Can't say 100% every second of every day my mind's been where it should have been. Not because I got other things going on. I mean, I do, but that has nothing to do with anything. Can't make that statement. I don't know who can make that statement. Right? Unless someone's working day in and day out. If a person working day in and day out, whatever, I'd still be careful. Because God could easily open up your file and say, wow, he really repented? Right? Mr. S, evil inclination, angel of death, whatever you want to call him, he's going to say, God, open his file. Let's see. He really repented? Let's see what his repentance look like. What if you open the file, Mr. S says, God, I think he gets a C-. He worked hard, he did, yeah, but look what he failed over here. Look what he failed over here. Look at these other things. Maybe I'm totally wrong, and that's not the case. But if a person gets scrutinized, what they thought when they woke up, what they thought when they prayed, or whatever they did, can a person honestly say it was they were at the top of the game of every last thing they said? Person went to pray in the morning. Let's say. So, they prayed 40 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. Every word they said, they had the right intention. Their mind didn't wander. They weren't looking at other people. They weren't thinking other things. I mean, the list can go on. I don't want to depress anyone. The list can go on. I'm being generous here. Can we make that statement? That's why the commentators of the Gemara says, person said they prayed well today and I deserve the reward for the great way I prayed. You're in trouble. You are in serious trouble. Because you just now opened your big trap. A person opened their big mouth and they said, see, God, you owe me. Look how well I prayed. You don't want to entice the evil inclination. You do not want to entice the greatest prosecutor in the history of souls, of angels. Because he's going to flush you. He's going to say, God, open the file. Open the file. Let's see. How did he pray? How did he do this? Let me give a list of 10 things and see what score you get. And if you get a 65, you'd be happy. If you get a 60, you'd be ecstatic. You can say your thoughts where they should have been every second of every day. You think the repentance 100% deep down, real 100%, you can say? We'll doubt ourselves 100,000 times. But we said I tried my best, maybe, hopefully. How much effort do people put in? I can't answer that. We just sort of go through the motions in general. But to say, God, you owe me because I prayed so well, you're in trouble. Anyone who says such a thing, you're in trouble. Because God is going to scrutinize every last thing that you did, and God should have mercy. God should have mercy. Someone asks, can I repent every day for my sins? Yeah? Or should I do it once and go on? No. Whatever sins you did, you repent for. Things that you repented for, I don't have to repent for again. Right? We have to do tshuva every day. Because every day we probably do things wrong. Let me see other questions here. Someone asked, what if you're trained in therapy psychology from Yeshiva Orthodox? So again, they're probably going to filter things. They're probably going to filter things that, they're not going to bring out heretical things. I would caution, even Yeshiva that's Orthodox, so I know which one you're talking about. They're very much into secular studies. But also, they're also careful. Not going to just bring in heresy, right? Not going to teach you evolution per se. But you got to be careful. In either case, you got to be careful. Because even though supposedly Orthodox, they give a high level of credibility to secular things. High level of credibility. I'm not saying that, things that are 100% forbidden, they're doing, but they still have a gay club on campus, and they had to, and some of them are fighting it, and it's the whole thing, it's a whole uproar, and trying to fight, funding it and recognizing it, but it's been there. It's been there. If you were to ask me, my personal opinion, I had a yeshiva that was going on, boot them right out. You boot their whatever. You boot them right out. What's the problem? What's the problem? They're going to say it's discrimination. See, it's a good thing I'm not in America. It's discrimination. If I had a yeshiva here, certain laws, that's it. Private. Can't say anything. Private. But see, government has a right to say anyway. Because what they do, so these people say, you got to recognize us. They want formal recognition. How can you recognize them? This is the whole thing I don't want to get into. But I just will say, how can you recognize that? Full with clean conscience. So they're going to say most people don't. But now they're forced. Because now the government's forcing them. Otherwise, discrimination. But don't they know there's such a club on campus? They know. This is something, if you know about this, you know about it. If you don't, this is what I'm telling you. They know this is going on for years. This is not a new thing, but now government got involved. Now the government says you have to make it a formal place. They have to have a formal place to do it, that. Try to push under the carpet. Now, my question would be, why do you have these people there? So some people in the modern Orthodox community will say, you got to recognize it. You got to work with them. If I was running a yeshiva, it's all boys, it's all guys, whatever ages. Let's say it's so there it's by university. 18 years old, 19 years old. Is that a healthy environment to have guys running around knowing that they're doing what they're doing? I don't think it's such a healthy environment. I don't care how many of them there are. You nip it in the bud. Oh, but what's the problem? What? It's a catch-22. What about the law of the land? Right? That's the whole discussion. Spoke about the other day. What about the law of the land? So this goes against what the Torah says. But you know what? So they're fighting it. Gudas Yisrael is fighting it. Right? I don't think they're having that much success. They're fighting it though. But that's not my question. The fact is, you have people there. You already know they're there. You already know this group exists. And you don't give them formal, I don't know. You don't give them a place to do things. It's not a formal thing, this and that, but you know it exists. Be up to me, I boot these people straight out. Nothing to talk about. How can you have such a thing? How can you have people running around doing such a thing? Knowing about it. Not saying not knowing about it. You know about it. Everyone knows about it. It's not a healthy environment. I don't care what the numbers are. It's unhealthy. Period. Oh, but now the government got involved. Now you got to make it more formal. You want to ask me? Shut the place down. You want to have a yeshiva? You have a yeshiva. Forget the university. Make it a private thing. You don't have this. That's it. You shut it down. That's the difference between what we think and what the modern Orthodox community thinks. You got to deal with them. You got to incorporate them. Yeah, you open up a Pandora's box. Can people like this be rehabilitated? Yeah, they can. Is it easy? No, but there are people that can help them. I met someone last week, told me that it's helped a number of people. Take his word for it. Helped a number of people. But how can you have that partisan institution? Goes against Leviticus chapter 18. Now, I think people I went to yeshiva with that are modern Orthodox that are, openly pro this. That you got to incorporate them. You can't ostracize them. Okay, it's not an easy situation. I'm sure these people feel bad. They don't really fit in. And this, okay. You cannot have that exist in your institution. I understand it's a terrible situation. It goes against what the Torah says. We can have compassion for these people. We should be empathetic. But the question is, should we be all inclusive? Till my brain falls on the floor. Someone will say, well, these two people come, they're together, they want to be part of your congregation. 100% you have to say it's wrong. If not, you're an idiot. Not about compassion here. You got to set the record straight. I'm not saying to yell and scream at them. They have to show empathy. But you say, as my position as an Orthodox rabbi, I do not condone this whatsoever. You'll never be called to the Torah. You'll never be recognized. They have to know that. You're going to say, wow, so harsh. There's a limit. Like I said, some people I went to yeshiva with many years ago. See some of the things they're doing. God should have mercy on them. Mercy on them. It's one thing, okay, you want to have compassion, you want to have empathy. It's another marching in a parade. I thought someone did it. He's got a son that came out, okay? Came out of the closet. So they're all embracing this and that. As an Orthodox rabbi, which this person is, How with a conscience between you and God can march in such a thing? Empathy for your kid, I can understand. Compassion, I could understand. You can't condone it. So this person said straight out, we, in the modern Orthodox world, we have to show compassion. We have to be all inclusive. I don't say that in my book. You can have empathy, I agree. But I have to go so far as to march one of the, because one of my kids is? Yeah, it's going to be a little bit friction. This person all embracing. At least that's what I see from what they post. All embracing. Right? So he thinks people like me are going to be out to lunch. You're crazy. These people have, they have feelings. They have rights. I feel bad for them. We should feel bad for them. Torah says it's forbidden. Right? So if I had my own congregation, 2 guys walked in. They said, this is who we are. I said, very nice. You'll never get an honor here. I'll never condone what you do. You want to come here? Give us a date. That's what has to be said. Otherwise, you're guilty by association. You could say, I don't want you coming here. Could do that. Let someone else deal with it. Could do that. I don't think you're cruel in such a case. You don't want it. You don't want to be part of something and be guilty by association. Spoke about this in Pirkei Avos months ago. Months ago. A person can be punished if they didn't do anything wrong, just guilty by association. So you made a protest, you said what we had to do, okay? You can't say it's okay. They have to know it's not okay. I'm not saying you spit at them, but you have to lay down the law. You have to tell them the way it is. Again, that's not going to be so popular to say. My Rebbe says, if you're rabbi of a congregation, they're not trying to run you out of town, you're not doing your job right. Right? So you got to lay down the law. That's the law. I should be as open-minded until my brains fall on the floor. The limits. Then they could, now a person's got to be careful here. Because if you're selling in America and other places, they come and sue you and say, you got to let me in. You can say, I don't want, this is an Orthodox congregation and we don't allow, abominations to walk in. People who do abominable acts. We don't want them. They can sue you probably. What do you mean? I have a right. And we have bylaws. We have certain things. They'll say it's discriminatory. You run into all kinds of problems. Guaranteed. At a certain level, they can probably shut you down if they wanted to. But again, the Torah is what it is. Torah is not a pretzel. We don't turn it into a pretzel. But you got to tell them the way it is. If they don't like it, what do we say? Go eat kugel. You don't like it. Okay. It's not about a popularity contest. It's about what's right. Woe to people that are going to, it's one thing, okay, you have compassion, you have empathy. Right? We need to have compassion and empathy. It's a whole nother thing to go marching and saying it's okay. That's a whole nother thing. Once you do that, you're beyond the left. You're outside the camp now. This person didn't think anything was wrong with it. Totally didn't think anything was wrong with it. Proud of it, even. Even if he himself is not a homosexual. So what? I want to show solidarity. You want to show solidarity with people who are bragging. People who are bragging. This is what we're doing. How can you show solidarity with such a thing? As an Orthodox rabbi to boot? Isn't that an oxymoron? Huge oxymoron. Here they are flaunting what they're doing. You're saying that's okay. Again, it's a good thing I'm not God. I make the biggest rumbling and say, what if you're cotton picking head? You gotta be insane. You gotta be insane to do such a thing. That's how far it goes. That's how far that agenda goes. Person wants to be a part of it, don't ignore everything I said. Okay? right? Rabbi wouldn't say any difference. Other great Rabbanim wouldn't say any difference. Can't condone it. But to the extent you're going to go march with them, come on. That's way too far. One thing to have compassion, have empathy. It's another thing to be there showing solidarity with people that are flaunting what's totally forbidden, Torah prohibition, the most severe death penalty. Yeah. Someone asks, you go to Gan Eden, are you going to feel the same joy like other people there? No. Why not? Different levels. People on different levels. Someone on a higher spiritual level feel much higher level of spirituality there. People on a lower level, they'll, everyone will feel whatever they feel. It'll be at different levels because not everyone is going to reach the same level. Someone asked, Messianic era, true Messiah is going to rule Israel. That's true. In the next world, God's going to run the world, right? Question what the next world, what Olam Haba looks like. That is true. What happened on this earth or in Olam Haba? So it's difference of opinion. Right? According to the Rambam, Olam Haba will be after resurrection of the dead, seemingly after resurrection of the dead, and won't be any difference between this world. In other words, we'll be in some sort of body, whatever that body is, we don't know. Some sort of body that the soul goes in. Whoever gets resurrected, there'll be no difference between this world and the spiritual world. Others say, no, we're not going to have a body. We're just going to be spiritual beings. Be a totally different world. Be a totally different world. Right? Well, once the world gets destroyed in this resurrection, that future world, whatever it is, will never be destroyed. Whoever merits it will merit it. It'll never be destroyed. Yeah. Any other questions? One second. Supposed to be optimistic as a no-eye to go to heaven because their thoughts feel good. Thoughts don't matter. All right, let's make that clear. What a person thinks doesn't matter. It's about action. You need to control thought. We need to have positive thoughts and different things. But thoughts, what does Judaism care about? What I do. It's all about what I do, not what I think. Even though a person technically could be punished for what they think for certain things. Most things not, because we say words in our heart don't mean anything. Right? But in general, if a person feels good, that doesn't mean anything. Thought, it's about what I do. It's about action. Right? We're all about action. Yeah, any other questions? Don't ask about creation. Creation, you look at creation of the world, pretty much it's very much steeped in Kabbalah. That's a simple answer. So we have to understand there is a creator, created the world, created everything, in its natural form. Create everything in its natural form, the Gemara says, right? Animals created as adults. They weren't born, right? In their full form. And that God is in charge of everything. That's why we say the Shema, right? We say we take on the yoke of heaven, then we take on the yoke of mitzvahs. The fact that God runs the world. God created the world. Even non-Jews have to believe that. Non-Jews don't have to believe, about divine providence, but they still have to believe in one creator. So creation's all about Kabbalah. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Even though some people get caught up in evolution and, different things, Genesis is very hard to learn. Just about creation. The stories themselves, we're going to go through week after week. The stories themselves are also very hard to understand in many ways, right? In many, many ways. So I would just say, whatever you get out of creation, you have to realize God runs the world. God created the world. He's in charge of everything. Nothing acts outside of him like that. You want to go a little bit further into creation. Okay. But, it's next to impossible unless you understand Kabbalah. Right. So since I don't understand Kabbalah, it's okay. I'll get it certain ways and, and that's it. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop there. I do this every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, feel free to find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, RavChaimKaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day.